home is where the heart is, or at least where it should be, but sometimes our homes can actually be the cause for stress. And I'm not talking about what's happening in the home, but rather what it looks like, what it feels like. Today we're sharing some design tips that will actually de-stress your home and make it a place where you can unwind and feel your best. Design psychologist and style director for Overstock.com, Amber Dunford, joining me to share the scoop on this, which I think is a really juicy idea because I've been in that place where the house is settled, kids are in bed, right? The room physically is calm, but you still feel a little shaky, right? You still feel those vibrations from the day. And you say your surroundings play a big role in how we feel.
Yeah, they do. So if we're in a stressful environment or a chaotic environment, our cortisol levels shoot up. We're sort of in that fight or flight mode. We're more irritable. We kind of like look at small stressors and overreact to them. We sleep poorly. Like, it's just not great to be in a stressful situation at home.
It's that physical, mental, emotional correlation, connection that 100%. I think we all buy into.
Yeah.
But this is a unique lens to look at our space. So you're going to identify stress triggers and solutions for each one of our 5 senses. Let's start with our sight. What are stress triggers that we see?
So sight, I would say the way we're using color combinations and also clutter are big culprits of leading to stress in the home.
Yes, how would we turn that around?
Well, so contrasting colors, although they are great in combination, so that would be colors opposite on the color wheel, like red and green. They're nice in moderation, but if you use too many of them, they actually create too stimulating of an environment, and so that's kind of the opposite of creating like a respite, a nice like peaceful space in your home.
Which you just described actually a very popular and accepted design strategy. Like you go for that complementary color, right? That opposite color wheel hue. You're saying kind of stay on the same side?
Well, we tend to respond better to monochromatic. So that isn't like all a single color throughout, but that's the range of everything. So that can be like the range of neutrals, or it can be like if you love green, play with all the shades of green down to like, you know, the watery mint of green to like the deep vegetal green. And that's a very soothing space.
But it's a great design challenge, I think, too, because I know like, we'll take our example, blue and peach, right? Kind of on the comeback to some people's chagrin. But if you play those opposites, you say you're going to feel the energy of that, as opposed to taking a blue, for example, and choosing 4 shades of blue and sprinkling that throughout your room.
Yeah, and then you can do like little small color combinations in there, but just in a little bit smaller proportions. If you think about like nature, how nature, like if you look out on a landscape and you see like all green or all, you know, taupes from the sand, like there are little sprinkles of like flowers, but it's in smaller proportions. So it's much like more scaled back, like livable.
And you mentioned clutter being the other major culprit. What are we, buying baskets and tucking it all away?
I mean, I have a toddler. I've never invested in more baskets in my entire life.
You're here.
So so yes, clutter, we tend to scan cluttered environments just to see if anything's changed that warrants our attention. And so we spend a lot of like mental energy looking at clutter, assessing it. And so you want to get that stuff in bins, in baskets, behind doors, and so that we're not completely exhausted by having to look at all that.
Yes, yes. Touch is the next sense you want us to consider. And touch is a big one in design when you talk about textures and pulling in those wovens. Tell us what we need to know.
Well, we're tactile creatures, right, as humans. And so we experience the world through touching it and exploring it. And we also self-soothe with touch. If you think back to like your childhood blanket or your stuffed animal, we use those things to self-soothe.
That's true. So things we can do, you say softer rugs.
Yeah, so sometimes the like most durable ones aren't the softest, like jute, sisal, seagrass. I would keep those for high traffic areas and use the softer, more plushy ones where you're gonna be barefoot or kind of lounging out like in a living room or a bedroom.
What about the harder surfaces, Amber? Any better selections for a more calming environment?
Well, like if you're going with a rug, you want to create like something with a heavier pile, right? Or something a little nubby, something that just feels good to the touch.
And the harder surfaces like our counters or our floors, anything there?
No, I mean, you can think about, well, like in the kitchen, that's hard because it's like spaces that you need to keep clean. I would actually focus on clutter in those areas and getting like those things in containers and cleaning that up.
You like the touchables, the fur, the flannel, the Sherpas?
I do. I mean, I'm always freezing too, so I have those everywhere at my house. But yeah, using those things throughout the house can be very self-soothing, and they can soften corners, they can soften furniture, so.
And we often joke about another pillow, another Target pillow, or whatever it is, another Overstock pillow. But you say those throws and those pillows can actually serve a good purpose when it comes to this sensory of touch.
Yeah, have you ever noticed in conversation with someone, sometimes if they're sad, they'll grab a pillow and just sort of hold it and keep it close, so yeah.
All right, let's talk about sound.
Okay.
Totally overlooked sense,
I know.
I think, sensory
It's so fun.
in design. What are some sound triggers we should be aware of?
Well, so our heartbeat will sync up to whatever sound or baseline is happening around us. And so if that is like an unpredictable, stressful sound, maybe from your neighbor, if you're sharing a wall or construction, that's what your heartbeat is going to sync up to. And so that's hard to develop a coping strategy around that like unpredictable sound. Yeah, you don't want your heartbeat syncing up to that because your body will follow and then you kind of are on edge.
So let's talk about some practical solutions. I mean, if you're in an apartment situation, this is a tough one too, but you say curved spaces can help us.
Yeah, we actually rate spaces with curves in them as being more quiet regardless of the sound that's happening in them. So I know, so whether that's curved architecture, curved table, curved things, you know, in artwork, so we will rate those as being more quiet and calming.
So look for the curves.
Yeah.
Probably a combination sensory benefit there.
Yeah, exactly.
And you talked about moms of toddlers getting all the baskets. Moms of toddlers also appreciate white noise. Good white noise.
100%. Yeah. We just went on vacation and I was like, did we pack the white
Where's
noise
the machine?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
the next sense is smell. How does this play into home design?
Well, smell is an interesting one, and it's so personal too. So scent is activated in the same part of the brain as memories are stored. And so if you probably relate, if you've ever smelled something, you're immediately taken back to that time in your life, like, seventh grade. So
totally.
It's, and so you want to be, that's very personal. So you just want to be aware of your associations with scent. So for some people, like pine is a happy scent from like a cabin they stayed in as a kid. But for others, it's like a cleaning product that maybe was used when they stayed in a hospital. So you just want to be aware of your associations with scent.
Generally speaking, you say calming scents will be your friend, the lavenders or the jasmine, but you talked about those memories, nostalgic scents you say make